All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about a huge shift happening at the very top of the AI world. And this whole story, it didn't start with some big product launch. Nope, it started with a leaked memo.
Just 2 words, rough vibes. That's what OpenAI CEO Sam Altman told his team in a leaked memo. And you gotta ask, right? Why would the head of a company that's supposedly on top of the world, we're talking a $500 billion valuation, be talking about rough vibes? Something's up.
And look, this wasn't just some off-the-cuff remark. The timing here is everything. This memo goes out right before a massive announcement from a competitor. It was a clear signal that there were some serious concerns bubbling up inside OpenAI.
So in this memo, Altman basically tells his team the party's over. He said their days of being the undisputed king were done. He's talking about slowing growth, needing to take huge risks, even putting the company on a wartime footing. So the big question is, what could possibly have spooked them this badly? Well, the answer came just a few days later, on November 18th, 2025. That's the day Google dropped its counterpunch. And it wasn't just a new model that could compete. Oh no, this was something that threatened to flip the entire board.
Google rolls out Gemini 3 Pro. And bam, it just completely leapfrogs the competition. We're talking coding, understanding images, handling super complex problems, you name it. In one move, Google snatched back the performance crown in AI.
And get this, Altman himself basically admitted it in that leaked memo before Gemini even came out. He said Google was doing excellent work. So see, the launch of Gemini wasn't just about a better product. It tore the lid off a much, much deeper problem for OpenAI.
Okay, so this is the absolute key to understanding the whole situation. This isn't just about GPT whatever versus Gemini, not at all. This is a battle between 2 fundamentally different types of businesses.
The experts have a term for this, a structural mismatch. Sounds fancy, but the idea is simple. It's when one company's entire business model is just, well, it's not built to fight an opponent who has these massive built-in advantages. Let's break down what this actually looks like.
So on one hand, you've got OpenAI. Think of them as this brilliant, super-focused research lab. They build amazing AI models. But then you have Google. And Google isn't a lab, it's a fully integrated tech giant. It literally owns the whole pipeline, from the chips that do the thinking all the way to the screen you're looking at.
You know, there's a great analogy for this. Imagine OpenAI is this world-class chef, right? Just a genius in the kitchen. But they have to rent the kitchen space, they have to go out and buy all their ingredients, and they rely on a single delivery service. Now, in walks Google. Google isn't just another chef. Google owns the farm, the delivery trucks, the kitchen, and the restaurant. They can make the same amazing food, but they can do it instantly and for way, way cheaper. And that creates 3 huge problems for our lone chef.
Okay, disadvantage number 1, compute. That's just a fancy word for the raw processing power you need to run these AIs. OpenAI has to rent super expensive computer chips from NVIDIA through Microsoft. That costs a fortune. Google? They just design and build their own custom, super efficient chips. They don't have to pay that NVIDIA tax. Huge cost advantage right there. Second, you've got data. This is the food for AI models. OpenAI has to go out and scrape the web or make deals to get its data, and that's getting legally messy and expensive. Meanwhile, Google has 4 billion users on Search, YouTube, Android. Every single second, those users are creating this massive, endless, and totally free river of training data that only Google gets to use. It's just no contest. And finally, disadvantage number 3, distribution. How do you get the AI to people? OpenAI has to spend a ton of money to get you to visit their website or download their app. You have to sign up, learn a new thing. Google, they just flip a switch and put Gemini right into the search bar you already use, the phone in your pocket, the apps you open every single day. For their users, there's basically 0 friction to start using it. Now let's look at the money, because this is where it gets really staggering. Because when you add up all those disadvantages, you get a financial situation that's, well, one expert called it mathematically indefensible. That's a brutal way of saying the numbers just don't work.
So you have investors pouring money into OpenAI, valuing it at an absolutely massive $500 billion. That price tag is basically a giant bet that OpenAI will grow like crazy forever. But the company's own internal numbers tell a very different story. They're on track to lose a jaw-dropping $11 billion by 2029, and in 2025 alone, they're projected to burn through more than $8 billion, just burning cash.
And while OpenAI is burning all that cash, what's Google doing? Oh, just sitting on a pile of nearly $100 billion in cash reserves. And on top of that, they're making tens of billions in pure profit every single year.
I mean, look at this side by side. The difference is it's stark. You've got OpenAI, basically a software company, burning through billions just to stay in the game. And they're up against a hardware, data, and software giant that can fund its AI efforts forever from its other businesses. It's an unfair fight, and it's making a lot of people in tech think about a classic story from the past.
The whole thing has this feeling of déjà vu, like we've seen this movie before. In fact, some people are starting to call this whole situation the Great AI Inversion.
So, does this ring a bell for any of you? Think back to the 90s. There was a super hot startup, Netscape. They basically invented the web browser and defined the early internet. But they were just a software company. And they got absolutely crushed by Microsoft. Why? Because Microsoft owned the platform, the Windows operating system.
The parallel here is impossible to ignore. OpenAI has that first mover advantage. It has the brand name everyone knows, just like Netscape did. But that's not enough when you're basically a tenant renting space in a world owned by the landlord. So the big takeaway here is that the rules of the AI race are fundamentally changing. And that leaves us with one final huge question. When all the dust settles from this fight, who is going to own the future of AI? Is it going to be the brilliant, nimble lab that started this whole revolution? Or will it be the massive, integrated empire that can deliver AI to billions of people at a scale and at a cost that nobody else can even dream of matching?